Mom advice is so real. My husband, he's like, why does every mom have to tell us how to do stuff? And I'm like, I'm so sorry, babe, but I do the same thing.
I do it too. I even, like I said, separate myself into the office, but like I can hear them laughing and playing and I'm like, I'm missing out, you know, or I hear him crying and I'm like, oh, I should go help.
And honestly, I feel like it's kind of a culture shock to become a mom.
When you make a plan, make a backup plan and make a backup for that backup plan.
With a baby, the check boxes are invisible. Like technically you did so much. You did, you know, kept them alive, first of all. We don't have to push so hard on our novels because they'll be there when we come back to them. But our kids won't always be little.
I love to hear other authors' stories. It is so inspiring and encouraging, especially when we hear their full story, not just the highlight reel. Because despite what it feels like sometimes, no one is an overnight success. So let's chat about different aspects of author life and dive behind the scenes of publishing.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this surprise attempt at podcasting just for kicks and giggles. I'm so excited to be talking to my good friend, Brittany Wang, and she's a fellow writer mama. So we're going to be talking about that a lot today. Thank you, Brittany, for joining me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for having me.
Yay! So really quick, I want to introduce you guys to Brittany and then also introduce our topic today and our structure for this like podcast style video that I have in mind. So first of all, Brittany, we have been good friends for years now. She is a YA fantasy author. Her book is called On Wings of Ash and Dust, and I will link it below, of course. She's also the creator of the author website Bootcamp, which, by the way, I didn't put this in my notes, but I wanted to mention I took it years ago when you first did it, and it was so good, so I definitely recommend. She's also... Yeah, absolutely. She also has a brand new book directory specifically designed for no spice YA fantasy, which we will definitely talk about. Like I said, fellow writer mama. And then we've also been critique partners since 2018. And I also put in a note, we've known each other since like 2009, I think. Is that right?
Like that.
Isn't that crazy? And we did not think we were going to be writers back then. We had no idea. And then, like I said, we're going to talk about all these things, but I'm really excited and passionate about our topic today of being author moms. And Brittany and I are both brand new moms. So just so you have some context, my little guy, his name is Zion. He is 14 months old. And then Brittany has Oliver.
Yes, Oliver. And he just turned 8 months.
Which is so cool. I love it. They're like exactly 6 months apart. And he's all getting teeth, right? I just had to throw that in there because that's like a big milestone.
Yeah, he's getting two little ones right here, and it's crazy.
I love it. The bottom one? Is that what you said? Yeah, that's so cute when they smile with those two little bottom teeth. So like I said, we are brand new. And there's going to be so many seasoned author moms who are hopefully chiming in on everything we're talking about today. And so I think that's really valuable because it's just so helpful to hear from people who have been where we're going. So today, what you guys can expect from us, we're going to chat with Brittany, a fun question, get to know you section. And then she's going to share some of her backstory in case you don't know and how she came to be an author, followed by our main topic on being a writer mama and just this wild balancing act that it is. We're going to talk about challenges mainly and how we face them, but also a little bit of encouragement and advice. And then I think that's it because we had so much more, but we don't know if we're going to get into that today. So we might have a part 2. So let's start with the rapid fire questions. First of all, are you a plotter or a pantser or somewhere in between?
Oh, I'm definitely a plotter, but I have had seasons where it's just like, okay, I need to pants a little bit to get through this, but I love my plotting.
Right. Let's see. Would you prefer to read/write a series or standalones? If you had to choose only one.
Yeah, definitely for both series, for sure. I love seeing characters all the way through, like multiple books. If I finish a book, I'm just like, no, wait, I want more of them.
Right. Same. I have to agree. How many books have you written at this point in your career?
Partial books. I've written a few, but Ash and Dust has been the only book that I've completely like not only finished a draft, but like gone beyond that. So just the one.
Well, I have to say, technically it's 6 books in one, you guys. She separated them into episodes and they're full stories. They're like start to finish like arcs. So I count that as 6 in my opinion.
Okay, 6.
And then on top of that, yeah, of course. On top of that, I would also say your Sisters of the Shadowwood. I don't know if you counted that as a full draft counts as a book, but I say starting in general counts as a book in my opinion.
That's true. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So that's a lot. That's like 7 right there.
Just have to get them all out.
Yes. And you will. You absolutely will. And then that's why I put written and not published, because I think it's really cool to know how many books an author's actually written, because sometimes we don't publish everything as well.
Right.
Sometimes we're like, I'm going to put this on the back burner, or maybe not even publish it at all.
Right.
So for you, what are the most important elements of good writing?
Such a good question. And I'm tempted to say, like good plot, good characters, like make sure you're showing, not telling in your descriptions. But like when I think about me as a reader and I'm like reading something, I'm like, oh, this is really good writing. I think it's actually like the fact that it makes me feel something. Yeah. And I don't really care what tactics an author is taking to get me there, as long as they get me there, And
I
so
love
like,
that. Yeah.
Right. Cause I feel like everybody has strengths and weaknesses, but like, if you can get me to feel something, like, I think that writing is good. You know what I mean?
That is such a better answer than what I would have said. I love that. Cause yeah, it is literally like, I will 5-star something if I felt something, and if it has a good ending, maybe. If the ending ruins it, that's hard. So the last and most exciting question in this little rapid fire is that it's about all your projects that you have going on, because you have so many good ones. So what is the project that you're especially excited about right now and working on at the moment?
Yes.
And I know the answer to this.
Yes. Well, and I'm going to cheat just a little bit, because I have my sequel for Ash and Dust, and I want to do like a free short story for my newsletter subscribers. So that's like a big thing. But I'm also currently working on a new course for unpublished series writers. And I really want to help them get their series out there and start their career like I did. And hint, hint, it has to do with serials. So.
Yes. And then I also have to throw this out. I know this wasn't plan, but I'm super excited about your No Spice. I always want to call it YA Fantasy No Spice, but it's really the reverse. You call it No Spice YA Fantasy book directory, right?
Yes. So that's a project that is like out there and people can use, but yeah, I definitely want to keep developing it and adding new books. And if you're a reader of No Spice YA Fantasy, or you've written and published a book, you definitely want to get connected with us. I'm sure Bethany's going to put the link down below, but we have a Discord group and we have a website, and it's so much fun.
Yes. And I think you should definitely sign up for the newsletter if you're interested in No Spice YA Fantasy, because Brittany's going to be putting out some really cool things. Like, she's casting a vision. I won't spoil it, but let's just say you want to sign up for the newsletter.
Yes. Oh, thanks.
Yes, absolutely. And then, so next I was really excited. This is, again, one of my passions, is hearing about how somebody became an author, their journey along the way, not just the highlight reel, but also like the reality of it, the downs as well as the ups, so to speak. And so I was really curious. I have some questions around just like where you started all the way up to where you are now. So my first question is, when did you start writing, and what inspired you to begin? And did you know when you were setting out to be an author that that was what you were going to do?
Yes. So, technically I say like I've been creative writing like my whole life, especially like middle school and high school. And I did do like fan fiction, and I wrote like my own original stuff, but primarily music and songwriting was like my main way of storytelling. And I didn't really see fiction writing and novel writing as a career option at that point. So I mostly focused. Me either. Yeah. And that's actually how Bethany and I met. We were both in the music area.
Yes.
And so I went into a job where I did music, but I also wasn't working for myself. So I kind of had to like cater to what other people wanted. And pretty soon, like my creative love for music and songwriting started to become a job more than a joy. And so I desperately needed a different creative outlet. And in 2017, I think I was about 29 years old at the time, I started getting back into writing just for fun. And I actually took a story idea that I started in middle school, and I was like, okay, I love this nugget of an idea. I'm going to throw all of this away, but I'm going to take this like little inspiration and do something with it. But I cannot do things halfway. I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to take a course. I'm going to like, get feedback. I'm going to like, do this for real. And I fell in love with fiction writing again. I started reading a whole lot more, and it started out as like a bucket list, kind of like, I want to like at least get one book out in the world. And then I reconnected with Bethany. Actually, I was watching like YouTube videos about writing, and one of your videos came up, and I was just like,
no way,
Bethany. Yes. I don't know if you remember
that.
this.
Oh
but
my
I
gosh.
reached out to you because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is my friend, and she's releasing a book, and she's working on a series. And the more we talked and like you were asking me what I was working on, I was just like, if Bethany can do it, I can do it.
Heck yes. Heck yeah.
And so I was so inspired. Wow. And so you're like a huge like reason why I was just like, I'm going to actually try to do this. And so much love.
I love that.
And so I started in 2017 working on what would become On Wings of Ash and Dust. And then by 2021, it was published as a serial series. And then by 2022, it was the physical novel altogether. So.
Yes. And if you guys are watching on video, I will put it on the screen and again, link it below because it's so good. That's so crazy because I thought it was from Instagram. I thought you found me on Instagram. I don't know why I thought that.
Well,
maybe that's just because that's where we connected.
You on there. Yes. But I definitely, I was like just searching like for help on YouTube, and I was like, oh my gosh.
That's so cool.
I haven't talked to Bethany forever, but I know her.
That's wild. I love that. I love it because Brittany and I started our YouTube channels for music. Again, going all the way back to our first, I like how you called it an era. I don't know if you called it that. I've never heard that before, but I love it. Our music era. And it was like, this is what we are going to do. And then we didn't keep going, but we had YouTube channels. And so we just translated over those skills. So what was the process of finishing your first book like? Do you remember like big moments that stood out to you? Any good or bad, ups and downs, both?
Both, definitely. I think the whole process was so much harder than I first expected it would be. But it was also one of the most rewarding things I think I've ever done. And I feel like it's funny that we're talking about being moms too, because I feel like I could describe motherhood in the exact same way, like hardest thing ever, but the most rewarding.
Literally.
Yeah. And so like, I think things I loved brainstorming and plotting the story. I spent way too much time plotting. But I loved that experience and world building and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got to the drafting, and that was like pulling teeth trying to like get that first draft done. That also took forever, and perfectionism is real. It was getting at me. And then I finished the first draft. I was like, okay, it's smooth sailing from here. I'm going to like, just, work on it and like polish it up, and like editing like took even longer, and getting feedback and all this stuff. But I think, I actually loved the beta reading process and like working with my developmental editor. And like, even though it was like so hard and getting critiques was like rough to my soul sometimes, it was also like so life-giving because I was hearing from other people that hadn't, read anything of mine. As my critique partner, you had read like all the earlier stuff, but they were reading stuff and being like, I love these characters. I love this story. I love, I'm predicting that this is going to happen. And so I found out that one of like my biggest, like one of the things I love most about this process is interacting with readers. And so even though the book's out, I'm telling my readers when I find them, I'm like, you should DM me and like talk to me while you're reading it, because I love hearing your thoughts as you go through it. And so some people have taken me up on that, and it's been really, really fun.
Oh my gosh, I love that. You're so good at community. Like you guys, Brittany has always been amazing with community and just like getting, like you have the coolest, what is it called? Read along going on your, is it on your channel? Right? And it's just so when she just like did the best of the best read alongs.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I love doing live streams with the readers as the different books were coming out. And it was awesome. It was great.
Yeah. it was very in-depth and like interactive, and everybody was so into it and like doing costumes, and like I don't even remember all the different, because every week was a little different. But if you guys want to, I'll link Brittany's YouTube for that below.
Oh yeah, I have a whole playlist of all the stuff. You can catch up on it as you read. It's kind of fun.
Right. Yes. Heck yes. I love it. So then what made you decide to choose your particular publishing path, self-publishing, and when did you figure that out?
Yeah. So I was pursuing trad for a while. Like I loved watching Bethany, indie publish, but I was just like, that seems really overwhelming. And I wanted a team behind me. Yeah, it's a lot, but the more I found out about trad as I was like going through it, I was like, there's so many of these things that don't match who I am. Trad takes a really long time. The whole process is so long, and I'm just like, I want to get things out there. Right. Agents and publishers can be super picky about what they want. And like, I was not willing to change my story based on just what a publisher wanted. And you just have generally less control. And so I was overwhelmed by the idea of indie publishing, but I found out about serial fiction, which I thought made it more approachable for me. And then I took Sarah Cannon's Publish and Thrive course. And I also had wonderful indie friends like you and Mandy to be like, wait, what did you do? And after all that, I was like, I feel like I have the tools and the confidence to actually do this well and be proud of what I put out there. So at that point, I was like, all right, we're going to indie. And I have not looked back. I love it.
Yes, I agree. Same here. It is overwhelming, though. You make a very good point. Like, go into it eyes wide open.
Yes.
So do you feel like there was any key element to you getting where you are today and the success that you've had so far?
I would say partial just self-determination and motivation, but also like there were so many points that I was like, I'm going to give up. Like I can't edit this scene one more time. Like if somebody tells me that this scene has an issue one more time, I'm going to freak out. But I had wonderful friends like you that would just like be in my corner and be like, no, like you're almost there. Like you're at the finish line. Like you just have this.
You were so
like,
close.
You're so close and you can do it. And like, don't give up. And I think that that's just like been so huge for me. And I don't know that I would have made it this far without other writers who get it that could speak into my life and be like, hey, you're doing great. Like this is hard. Won't belittle that, but you're going to make it. Like keep going,
Yes. And it is hard. Like you make a very good point. I've so relate to that, where you're like, I can't read it one more time. I've read it 1,000 times by now. And I don't think readers totally get that, but as authors, it's like so hard to retain the joy of your story by the 15th read through. You're like, I just need a break.
That's right.
So was there anything that you felt like held you back when you were on this journey with your first book?
Yeah, for me, I kept thinking about getting reviews, and I was like, the unrealistic expectation of like, I can make a book good enough that I will get no bad reviews. And that is just not a thing.
Yeah. It's so hard.
But in my head, like that was the perfectionism being like, do not put out this book unless every single person in the world will love it, 100%.
Yes.
And like, that's just not reality. So like that was a lie that I had to like deal with. And then, just generally the fear of people, what they would say about it, if they wouldn't like it, if they wouldn't like me because of it, just all of those things would just slow me down, I think.
Oh, I relate to that so much too. It's hard. It's hard when you're like, dang it, they don't like it. But the other person likes the exact thing that this person doesn't like. It's like, it blows your mind sometimes.
Yes.
But I still relate to that.
Recently, I was talking to somebody and they were like, I think of it like this, and this is a person who doesn't like fish at all. She was like, you can make the best salmon in the world, but I won't like it because I don't like fish, And so like, it's the same thing with books of just like, you can make the best, like this kind of story, but if this person doesn't like these aspects or this kind of character or whatever, like they're not going to like it. It's no fault of yours. It's just, they don't like it. And it's going to be somebody else's favorite book, Yeah. So
I love that. I'm going to remember that because I hate fish. So that metaphor sticks. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. Because I'm not like, I don't want to offend people, but no, I'm not going to eat that.
Right.
So I love that. And that brings us to our topic today. We're already 18 minutes in. I love it because this is so good. So thank you guys for watching and thank you, Brittany, for being here. But now we get to dig into the topic, which is being a writer mama. Like I said, the challenges, I think we're going to really focus on time management specifically, and then also some encouragement. So we've often talked about how it's a struggle to find time to write anymore as moms, brand new moms, especially in this particular season. And I know from comments that I've gotten from some of you guys on videos that it's very much a thing for a lot of people, not just moms, but dads, caretakers, honestly, everybody. Time management is a struggle for all of us. But there are some unique challenges to being responsible for another human being, especially 24/7. So I think one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to have you on, Brittany, is to just normalize this and let other new moms and parents who are trying to write know that you're not alone. We are here with you in this struggle. So just so you guys know where I'm coming from, and then we're going to talk to Brittany about where she's coming from. But why I'm passionate about this topic is, first of all, I was terrified that having kids would make me not want to write anymore, and that I would just like lose this passion and stop working, that I just wouldn't even want to work. And so I find that hilarious now because, as Brittany and I've talked about, now that we're on the other side of things, it's like, no, you're still you. You still have the same passions, the same dreams. Your kid just becomes this new passion on top of the other ones that you already have. And so if you're feeling passionate and you want to create, you will find the time. So that was one thing I just wanted to make sure I said in here. And then the other thing I wanted to know is that on the flip side, Brittany and I have also talked about this season of having kids is really short in the grand scheme of things. So we're trying to figure out how to balance, and really the best piece of advice that I've gotten at least is to cherish this season because it doesn't last forever. And then before we get into the questions for Brittany, the last most important thing I thought to mention is it's really important to know there are different ways to approach this. I feel like so much mom advice is this is the only way, but really there's different speeds, different habits. It all depends on what you need and what your kids need. So just take that with a grain of salt, what we say today. If it doesn't apply to you, that's cool. It doesn't bother us at all. I really think every single mom is so different, and only you can know what you and your child need. So we're here to support you and laugh with you and talk about our challenges, and hopefully it'll be encouraging.
Yes. Love that.
So before we dive into the big questions, I was really curious, and this is a great question to ask any author, but what does your typical work day and work week look like for you these days now that you have Oliver?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's always changing. So I'll just put that out there. Like they change so fast, especially at this age. And, but right now I'll just walk you through like a typical, like day of the week, not the weekend, but like during the week, right? Because the weekends I try to keep for family. But like Oliver gets up right now at like 5:30 a.m. and I cannot figure out how to get him to work to sleep any later, which is so sad because I feel like my genius zone is to like I'm up and my brain just starts moving, and I wish I could get more writing done, but I cannot justify getting up any earlier than 5:30 at this point.
No.
So that's just what
that'll
it is
change.
Right now.
I promise.
I hope so.
It will.
So then we get up, and my husband, Ben, is usually in the morning with us. We get breakfast together. And usually, this is not every single day, but how it's worked out is that Ben does a lot of his work kind of in the morning, or he has meetings and stuff. He kind of works from home and also goes out for different things. But typically the mornings are for him. So I take Oliver, and then nap number one. So he has 2 naps right now. So nap number 1, I've tried to be like, okay, now it's work time, but like I have to prep bottles. I have to like get myself together. I have to feel like I need to like pick up the house a little bit. So depending on the length of his nap, like sometimes that's all I get to do. And I just have to be okay with that. And then he gets up, we have lunch, we play. Sometimes Ben is then home in the afternoon, so he kind of takes time with Oliver. So then I'll have some time to do some work myself. That usually includes nap number 2. And then he's up again and we are spending time together. Sometimes we go out to like Target. I know Bethany and I talk about like going out to Target all the time.
Yeah.
It's like outing.
You got to get out of the house sometime.
Yes, exactly. The weather's getting better. So hopefully walks, do a bath time. Yeah. And then Oliver, 12 hours from waking up, he gets down to sleep right now between 5:45, 6 o'clock. So that's really what I'm counting as my time that I can count on. Because once he's out for the night, usually he is out. And besides, if Ben and I have like a date night or something, like that's when I'm like, okay, I have a good chunk of time to like work.
Yes, I love that. And I promise it changes because I remember those 5:30 mornings and you're like, is this ever going to end? And then it does. It gets better. It gets better. And then new struggles, but we won't talk about that. So obviously we're both obsessed with our little dudes, but it is a lot of work. And honestly, I feel like it's kind of a culture shock to become a mom. And so I thought we should talk about some of the challenges we face, some of the things we do to handle it, just tips, tricks, or if we don't know how to handle it yet, we can throw it to the audience and ask them for help. So the first and biggest struggle, I think, is time and just never having enough of it. Would you agree?
Yeah, no,
I
it's
feel like
such a change from like having all the
right?
time and still feeling like you
All
have
the
no
time.
time somehow. And then
Yeah.
you really have no time and you're just like, what the heck
Literally.
just happened?
Yes, it's just gone. It's like fully, like you can't focus when there's a baby. They're chattering or maybe crying and needs a bottle and et cetera, et cetera. So Brittany, how do you find the time to write, and what kind of tips and tricks have helped you to find the time?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm just getting my feet under me because at the 6, 7, 8 month mark now is when he's kind of starting to have a rhythm. Like before that, it was like anytime I could
No
get
rhythm.
no rhythm.
Yeah.
But now I feel like, so Ben and I actually recently sat down and looked at our calendar, especially because he, has like some other income, like job things that are not always the same time, but we are like generally, okay, let's break apart our weeks. We actually have like a schedule on our fridge right now that we are trying to like kind of use as a guideline. And so that's really helpful. And I have like at least 1, maybe 2 blocks during the week in the afternoon, like I said, where Ben is like, okay, like I was out all morning. Now I have Oliver time. Brittany's going to go do some stuff. So planning that out with him has been really helpful. I've tried to have like maybe my mom come over or somebody, but I always feel like I need to be the hostess like while they're here. Like they're playing with Oliver, but like I feel like I can't, like I want to spend time with them too. So that's something that I've heard people say. So if it works for you, great, but I haven't figured it out. Also,
I have to
like
leave
I said,
house.
Right. And that's the other thing that I haven't tried because I've tried my office and I think we're going to talk a little bit more about mom guilt a little bit later, but like I can still hear him.
Real.
Yeah. And so I think I need to try going out of the house a little bit too. But definitely like finding your time that like, if it's early in the morning, great. Like if it's late at night when they finally go to bed and they go to bed a little bit earlier, great. And that's where I am. And then the one thing that I haven't tried yet, but I definitely want to try and learn how to do is dictation. Because I've heard a lot of author moms like get into that. And like, if I could just pick up my phone and start dictating a scene, like, and learn how to do that, I think that would be a super game changer. So we'll see how
So true. I didn't think about that, but it would be a huge game changer. It's just the problem is that we don't have time to learn anything new. Right. So it's like, do you put the time into writing or to learning dictation?
So true. So true.
Yeah. But so sometimes we just, it's normal. We can't help falling behind. At least I feel that way. I struggle a lot about that. But on good days where, Oliver's cooperating, or like for me, Zion's cooperating, what helps you stay motivated and on track when you do have the set time, but maybe you're not feeling it? You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. I think that, pre Oliver, it was like, okay, like I'm going to track words and like get this many words down.
Yeah.
But I think it's a lot more helpful for me lately to think about, I'm going to work on this project for X amount of hours or X amount of minutes, or I'm going to, during this nap, I'm going to try to get this scene done or a couple scenes done. And like, then I can figure out like, how much I can kind of get done in that amount of time, and then have a realistic idea of what I could maybe to do going forward when I do have time. But it fluctuates, and it fluctuates, like you said, on mood and like your energy level. But I think it's really important though too to celebrate your wins. And this is something that, we do every week. Me, Bethany and Mandy get together over video like every week, and we check in with our goals. And sometimes it feels like I'm going to come to it and be like, I got nothing done. And then they're like, well, you wanted to do this. Oh, wait, I did that. Or I did part of that. Or I did, and it's like, at least I made progress and I actually feel better about myself than like I was feeling like 5 seconds ago,
Oh my gosh, that's such a good point. I didn't think of it that way, but it is almost like you've got these check boxes, and then with a baby, the check boxes are invisible. Like technically you did so much. You
So
did,
much,
kept
yeah.
them alive, first of all. And then, more detailed, like bottles and naps and more bottles and more naps and feeding. And, so it's just their invisible check boxes. So we do feel like,
So
what
true.
did we do this week? I don't know.
Yes.
So, and that can lead to burnout, honestly. So I feel like that is a huge struggle for writers in general, but especially as a mom. So for you, I put like best case scenario, but I also put like maybe real world scenario. What do you feel like would be a healthy writing pace for you that wouldn't cause burnout, or work pace if you're not writing?
Yeah. Writing pace, I
It's a tough
think,
one.
like I said before, like I think I just need to gauge it based on like what season I'm in. And like, I think it's helpful to, have like a couple sessions where you're like, okay, I'm going to work on this. I'm going to try to get this done. Okay, I got this much done. Okay, that means I was doing it for an hour. The next time I have an hour, maybe I can expect that I will get this done. And I think like doing sprints still is very helpful for me at this point. Pomodoro stuff. And, I just think that those kind of things too. Like even if it's like, I don't have the full hour, but I've been timing myself and I'm like, hey, I've been writing for, 15, 20 minutes, it's just like, okay, I got that done,
I love that. I love actually hearing you, and you've applied this, and it reminds me of the No Spice and how you literally said it takes me 8 to 15 minutes to upload. I was like, whoa, you know exactly how long it takes you to like put one book up at a time, roughly. And like applying that to writing would be genius. I don't know why I don't do that. That's so smart.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is not really connected, but this is another really good question that we kind of touched on already, which is mom guilt. And do you struggle with mom guilt when you're trying to write / work, and what's helped you with that?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said before, 100%. Did not think that it would be as much of a thing as it is. And, like I even, like I said, separate myself into the office, but like I can hear them laughing and playing and I'm like, I'm missing out, or I hear him crying and I'm like, oh, I should go help, and Ben is great. He's just like, get back in there. Like, I'm fine. Go.
That's awesome.
Yes, for the most part. Sometimes he's like, yes, please help. But but I
we
think
gotta poop.
yes, right. Or there's just no consoling him for some reason. But I think reminding myself that, it is good for Oliver to realize like, hey, mommy and daddy love you. They're always here for you. But, we have to eat too. Like we have to like go to work sometimes. We have to like do stuff. So like, I feel like it teaches him patience as long as like you have that balanced, kind of rhythm. And also, I think it's great for him to see too that like you can be a good parent and also pursue your passions. And so
I love that.
Yeah, that's something that I really want to like get a handle on. And Caitlin Duncan is a fellow author mom, and she's been sharing a lot of tips lately for author moms, which I love. And one thing she said that I can't quite use with Oliver yet, but like when he gets older, she's like, get your kids involved in writing your book somehow. And she was like, one tip I've heard is like, get like crayons and like paper and be like, okay, like mommy needs a creature for her book, or mommy like draw something for me that I can put in the book. And I was like, that would be so fun to like be able to like find ways that he can be involved in my passion. And it's not just like, okay, mommy's going to go do this thing by herself all the time. Like you can actually have a part of it, So I thought that was really cool.
That's the coolest. Yes. Yeah. I love it. And it fosters independence too. It was really hard for me because I thought, oh, you're supposed to play with them the entire time that they're awake, but then somebody was like, no, because then they don't learn the life skills to keep themselves occupied, to learn how to use their imagination, it's like, it actually develops a part of their brain to learn how to play on their own. I was like, oh, well, if it's if I'm doing it for them, okay, I'll go work.
Yes, totally. Totally.
Mindset shift.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. And on a similar note, how do you create when you're just like, oh, I have just given everything today? Like, the days when they're crying and it's just been a lot. And I put in my notes, I was like, I don't know if there's a solution, but I'm curious if you have something you do in this situation.
Yeah, I think I found that like my instinct is to push myself to do it anyway. Yeah. I think we've talked about this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But most of the time that only leads to more burnout, you know, and not great quality of work. So like some of the things I've been trying lately is like realizing that maybe I just need a reset. Maybe I just need a refueling. And sometimes that's as simple as taking a shower. Sometimes it's putting on real clothes or makeup at the beginning of the day. Sometimes it's just cleaning, like even just the sink. Like it doesn't even have to be like the whole house or a whole room, but just like picking up a little bit. And I think when my mind is clear and my space is clean and I feel clean, like I just feel like a totally new person. That kind of rejuvenates me. Another thing is like reading, but obviously that's kind of hard to find time for. So I've really been enjoying audiobooks, and I feel like when I listen to like other writers, like I just get inspired all over again. And like sometimes I partner that with like cleaning the house, so I'm like getting something done, but also like listening to a book. So I love like kind of multitasking a little bit. And or sometimes I just need like a different, like a few minutes to like do something else creative or do like another thing that I need to do in order to be like, okay, that thing's done. That gave me energy. Now I can like get into my book, you know?
I love that. Yeah. Just like that, recognizing that it's okay if we don't push, because actually we'll get more done if we don't. In the long run. Right. So smart. It's such a good mindset shift. Again, it's a lot of mindset stuff as a mom. I feel like just like reframing everything.
Yes. And actually there's one other thing I just thought of, that actually Caitlin Duncan shared recently on a webinar, that she was like, okay, like you have your plan, right? We're really good at like making a plan, but the kiddo doesn't always follow the plan. So she was like, when you make a plan, make a backup plan and make a backup for that backup plan. So it's like, if today doesn't go well, like what am I going to do? Right? What am I going to do? What other time do I have in the week? What can I shift? What's the priority so that like maybe this thing doesn't need to get done this week, but like this thing can take that block. And I was just like, that is genius. I know. And by the way, Caitlin,
blowing my mind.
right. And I mean, it takes a little more time to like think it through, but like, if you have a rhythm kind of every week, then you can like use that plan or the backup plan over and over. But I'll just say too that Caitlin's working actually on a program, a course for published author moms to help them out in the way that she's been able to do it herself. And so I don't know if Bethany might link it down below, but there
I can
is
link
like
it below for sure. Yeah.
More information. I'm going to be taking it, so I can't speak to it fully because I haven't taken it yet, but I love the content that Caitlin's putting out, and I'm very excited to like see what else she has to teach us. So
yeah, just based on those two things you've shared, I'm like, I'm in. Let's go.
Right?
Like
Let's go.
Seriously, my planner heart was just like, I love this, because I do get so frustrated when my plans fall apart, and I always have. I don't know how to like fix that now that I have a kid. But if you're like, oh, it's okay, I got another plan. Right. That really changes the game.
Yes. So good.
I love that. So I have a note to ask if you guys, as you're listening, if there are other challenges that you face, let us know in the comments, because we have talked about potentially doing a part 2. There's just not enough time for everything we wanted to talk about. So part 2 might be about like reframing goals and expectations, because we've been talking about that a lot lately. Both Brittany and I have been having to deal with that. But as far as the challenges and the struggle, I did a poll on Instagram, and there were like 3 really, really big themes. Like multiple people were bringing this up. So number 1, it's okay to struggle, and it's okay to ask for help on top of that, because one person said, nobody can know if you need help if you don't ask. And so for me, I put this as number 1, because this has been one of the biggest things that kept me afloat, is getting help. And then the second thing that a lot of people in the Instagram poll said was stop comparing yourself to others, and stop comparing yourself to yourself in your past, and start going at the pace that you need in this season. So basically it was a lot of stuff revolving around, it's okay to slow down, and like, it's okay to accept that, and that it's just a season. And then the third thing that I thought was really valuable was a couple people were saying, you're doing a better job than you think, because sometimes we're our own worst critics, and that mom guilt that we talked about is real. And just know that if you keep showing up, you're just going to be shocked. At least I have been, by how much we actually do get done. Like, we looked back recently, Brittany and I, at the year in our mastermind group. We looked at the full year, what we'd done, and we were shocked. I was shook. I don't know about you, but especially what you got done. I was like, Brittany, you were like in the middle of it, and like the pregnancy was hard. And then on top of that, you were like, the very first 3 months of a baby are the hardest, in my opinion, ever. And you were in the middle of that and still got so much done. So yeah, I just wanted to encourage you. I'm kicking off the encouragement a little earlier. That's our next section. So if you could tell your early mama self anything when you're first starting out, what kind of encouragement or help would you give them? Or yourself?
I mean, some of it is exactly what other people said on Instagram, so I might be repeating a little bit, but like,
that's
I agree.
Okay.
Like, you know, like this season, especially if you're at the beginning, is like so intense, especially if it's your first kid, or so I hear. Like, second kid might be a little easier because you're like, at least I kind of know what to expect. But and this is some of the things I'm going to say too are things that people told me, but I wish I had taken to heart even more, of like, this season will not be forever. There will be a lot of hard things, but the beginning is most intense and most overwhelming, like I said. Also, I think you said this earlier, but cherish the moments that you have, because literally, like, I think especially in the first few weeks and months, it was just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be forever. It's going to be like this forever.
But
I was thinking of the movie,
it's like, where'd they go?
Right. And it's, you know, he's 8 months, he's huge. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, my little baby is not like a little baby anymore. And like, I think I don't know if anybody else struggled with this, but like, I had a hard time healing after pregnancy. So that made it even harder to like bounce back and like really enjoy the first couple weeks and months. So if that's your story, like, I do not want to belittle that, because it is so hard, but I do wish that like, even through the pain of that I had cherished those moments even more. Take lots of pictures, take lots of videos so you can look back to, and definitely don't be afraid to reach out for help. And reach out to other mamas who get it, especially ones that are in a similar state. I think that's been so helpful. And I want to echo what you said earlier too, of like, everybody's going to be like, this is how you should do something. And over time, like, especially after the first couple months, you suddenly are like, I know that cry. I know what that means. I know what he needs. I know, you know, and it's like, it's this wonderful, like, crazy thing that happens. But that's going to enable you to say, like, when people say, hey, have you tried this? Or you should try that. Like, I think my response now is like, I'm definitely going to try that. Like, I'm going to experiment with that, but I'm not going to take it as like scripture. Like, I'm not going to take it as the end all be all, because like, he's my kid and I'm a certain person, and like, we're going to figure it out together, and we're going to do whatever is best for us, you know? So I think that was really hard, because I always want a prescriptive kind of thing. I always,
me too.
Like, like, tell me the steps and I will do them, and I want the result. But like, these kids might be little scientists, you know, like learning different things, but they are not robots, right? They don't do the same thing over and over again. So that's something that I wish I had known more.
Yes. Though that's so good, because mom advice is so real. My husband, he's like, why does every mom have to tell us how to do stuff? And I'm like, I'm so sorry, babe, but I do the same thing. I think it's just ingrained. I'm so sorry. But like, learning to take it with a grain of salt.
Right. And it comes from, I think for the most part, it comes from a place of like,
of love,
of love, of knowing, like, I want to help, you know, like knowing like this worked for me and I want to see it work for you. But like, the reality is sometimes your kid needs something different, you know?
So true. And that's literally the very first thing that I had from the Instagram poll, was so many people were like, trust your gut. You are their mom. Listen to your instincts. Literally, this was like over and over different versions of like, this, you know what's best. And so I was literally going to say the same thing. Like, you are uniquely designed to be your baby's mom or your child's mom and nobody else. And every kid is so different, but you know what they need. And I truly believe that. So I love that advice. Let's talk about that first season and the hard stuff, like being okay with it being hard. I just want to follow that up. I didn't take notes on this, but like, as you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, I had a hard time healing too. And it's so hard because you're like, why am I not enjoying this? I should be enjoying this. But you're like in sleep deprivation. Right. And so many people in the Instagram poll were like, it's real. It's hard. And so I just wanted to say, like, I even saw, I think it was an Instagram reel or something like that, where the mom was like, for my second baby, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to be, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, nope, I still had a hard time because it's postpartum. It's hard. It's the fourth trimester or whatever you want to call it. And it's so validating that it's hard sometimes. But on the flip side, somebody was like, don't sweat the small stuff. And I think they were referring to like, sometimes for me, when I was in postpartum, but the anxiety over things like sleep and getting it just right, or like feeding just right. And like figuring out how to use the baby wear just right. You know, like it was sweating all these little details when in reality, you just got to love on them and you're figuring it out as you go. So letting go of the things that were out of your control, I felt like was a big one. I don't know if you would agree with that. Totally. And then a third person was like, don't take on too much and don't push yourself, which I feel like Brittany and I have had to relearn daily because we like to push. So I actively have to remind myself of that one.
Sometimes hourly, I have to remind myself.
Yes, it's so hard. It's so hard because I think we're just built into us to be driven. But the child in the car you're driving is at a different speed. I don't know. That's a bad metaphor. But anyway, and then the last advice, which I also loved, was that you can write later. Your kids won't always be little. And another person said almost the exact same thing. Like, your kids just need you in this season. Like, this is the season, actually the whole time, but especially when they're little, just cherishing that time. Like, I think we've brought it up multiple times now, but I said earlier, as an Enneagram 3, for me, it's hard if something doesn't have a checkbox. It's just so hard. So just learning to create that invisible checkbox of spend time with Zion because he needs me, and and how important that is. So I just wanted to personally encourage like you and me and everybody listening that we don't have to push so hard on our novels because they'll be there when we come back to them. They'll always be there, but our kids won't always be little. And sometimes we need to take time for ourselves. I had a note just to encourage you guys, like sometimes to avoid burnout and avoid losing the joy of writing, avoid being resentful of your little one or other family, to avoid getting frustrated. You just need to find little pockets of time for yourself that aren't work time and writing time. And I don't think we hear that much as writers. We're like, no, you got to write every day. But I think it's okay to not write every day and even have seasons of not writing. I don't know about you, Brittany, but I feel like, and this is again, not planned, but I just feel like I'm starting to think I need to take like 1 month off every quarter, like a whole month, and just be okay with it. I don't know. Yes. Or more, maybe more. You know what I mean?
I think, you just have to take every season as it comes, and like listen to your body, listen to yourself, listen to your family, and not feel guilty when you feel like I need to step back.
Yeah. Yes. Amen to that. And this chat has gone by so fast. So let us know, you guys, if you want us to come back for a part 2, because we had so much more that I had planned. And Brittany, and we were so excited to talk about it because we've been talking about reframing expectations and our goals and also burnout. Again, we just barely touched on that, but let us know if you want a part 2. And then really quick, I want to share resources and then end with a really fun question for Brittany. The first one's the Happy Sleeper book. And I'll link it below because literally life-changing. I remember when Brittany had Oliver, I was like, oh, you got to read this book. You got to read this book. And I kind of pressured you on that. I'm so sorry.
No, it was so helpful. It was so helpful.
Okay,
I will also say that it's a thing that like you have to figure out what works for your kids. So like there were some adjustments that we made to it, but it was such a great like foundational thing to read.
Exactly. Same. We talked about, I was like, what do you do in this situation? Or like, what do you do when they drool? They don't talk about, anyway.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, you make it your own for sure, but it's sleep. When you finally get sleep again as a new mom, it's life changing. And then I also read Dear Writer, Are You in Burnout? Early on when Zion was like 2 or 3 months old. I listened to it as an audiobook. I was like, this is so helpful. So I kind of want to listen to it again, honestly. So,
Yeah.
and then you mentioned Caitlin Duncan's course, right?
Yes, definitely. I would. Yeah, we'll probably link that below, but I'm super excited about the stuff that she's sharing. And I will also share that there's just so many great like Instagram accounts that like they share tips, but also like they share the funniest reels that are just like make you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. And this is great.
Yes.
Like this is real life, not like, the perfect Instagram, but it's just like, this is real life. So Ben, my husband and I send them back and forth to each other like all the time. Like, oh my gosh, you got to watch this one. But also there's with eating, I've found the Instagram, solid starts. If you're starting to get your kid on solids, that was a really helpful Instagram that, Ben and I found super resourceful when we were first introducing food to Oliver. So I just want to share that too.
Oh, okay. You're reminding me. Taking Care of Babies. Is that what she's called?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cara Babies.
Is that how you spell it?
R-A. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. She's so good. And then there's a Honest Mom one. I'm trying to think of what it's called. There's the Enneagram Mom, because we both love the Enneagram.
Yes.
Have you heard of her? The Enneagram Mom?
I think I might be following her. Yes.
Yeah? Okay. And then there's also Diary of an Honest Mom. I just found her. And when you said Instagram, I was like, oh, I should share that one. She talks about mom guilt, all kinds of stuff, just like the real side of things that we don't hear. So coming into the fun questions at the end, I thought it would be fun to ask, what is something on your author bucket list that, I don't know, whether it's 1 year, 5 years, 10 years down the road, it can be in your control or out of it, but something that you're excited about on your bucket list.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, but if I had to pick one, I really want to get my book into audiobook form. So that's one of the reach goals this year, if I have time, is to find a narrator and to go for that.
Love that. Ooh, so fun. That's such a good goal too, because it's doable. Like, yes, we could make this happen. And then if you could give an aspiring author one piece of advice, what would you say?
I will piggyback off something I said earlier about getting writer friends, either a little bit ahead of you or in your same boat, and just like talk every week, check in about goals, encourage each other, like read each other's stuff, like that was like game changing for my journey.
Yes. So. Same here. Absolutely. It makes everything so much more fun too. It's like having coworkers.
Right.
Like, I'm not alone.
Exactly. And you can do all the craft, like don't discount all the craft stuff, but I just feel like you can do all of that and not have the support and not be able to finish. Whereas I feel like the support and like the feedback and all of that is just like, will help you get to the finish line.
Yes. Absolutely. I love that. That's a perfect note to end on. And then also, before I forget, where can we find you online? And I will put the links below, of course.
Yes. So you can always find me on my website. You can sign up to my newsletter to get even more tips and stuff, or find out about my books. We have the No Spice directory, which is awesome too for readers and authors. I have my own YouTube channel and Instagram, which is author Brittany Wang. You can find me there. I'm also on TikTok as Brittany Wang Books. And I also have a Patreon you can check out.
Love it. I will link all those below. Thank you so much, Brittany, for being here. This was super fun. I'm so glad we did this.
So fun. I hope you guys vote for a part 2. I think that'd be really fun.
Me too. Okay. We'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.